Hi, everybody. It's nice to see people in Roanoke. Uh, we don't have very many questions, and if you don't mind thinking of a few and sending them in, I'd appreciate them for next week. Uh, it's always extremely good for you to consider roughly how you're doing inside and coming up with something that might be helpful to you. And being helpful to you would be helpful to others as well. So thanks in advance for sending some in. Really appreciate it. This one is from Dominic Clark in Scotland. I have to put my specs on. He asks a number of questions about the hands, and I'll try to answer it as well as I can based on the way I think things are, I believe things are, and have my own experience, I guess you could say. He said, first of all, is the opening of the hands a prayer? And, it's really interesting. I honestly never thought of it that way. But it truly is. But in a kind of a way, we all have heard some of this before, but what we're dealing with here is two hands that are used for everything. And one of the reasons why traditional systems, or let's say beliefs, have used the hands in the East is because of that very reason, because they're always kind of moving. And it means that these systems are very personalized. When you put them together, there's a circulation that occurs in the body and off the body. It aligns very easily with the personalizations of our personality, our root centers, solar plexus, and gonad centers, and the engagement that we have, at least up with our tongues, and the emotional system is often tied right to the tongue. You can see that in your own lives if you pay a little bit of close attention. Reactions occur, and in some kind of defense comes out of your mouth, which is aligned with the throat, the root, the gonad center, the solar plexus. Meaning, those are the systems, or what we might call the chakras, or Sephiroth, that are used for purposes related to the personality. So, in a kind of a way, if you have in your mind that you're trying to engage with higher states, and you begin to bring your hands up in front of the chest, which would help the heart center in itself to open at least a little bit beyond the personality's stylistic way of engaging. And you start to put your hands just like this, maybe a foot and a half or so, and you try to be aware between the hands. I think that was the very first method that when I was teaching in the 70s, late 70s, that I tried to get people to do that, because energy, even though it's slightly personalized, very much so, will start flowing between one hand and the other, because they're more open than to the internal, external aspects of our world. You start to be able to notice a sensation related to energy, which you feel a buzz, you feel something, a heating, you feel all kinds of different things. Most of you have already recognized that that is fine. Yeah, hang on. The hands are a system. The whole personality from the toes or the root arena territory to the top of the head, another system. Each chakra is a system. In other words, they have other chakras dormant within them. These are levels or states of engagement with energy and how it can open. Our primary motivation is related to the personality. The sooner you understand that that might be true, the easier it is to let go a little bit. To recognize, or at least recognize, that anything you do it with the flavor of you in mind. So your focus is on you, primarily. So with the hands, remember, everyone remembers how to turn them on. Little finger, down to the bottom, up to the thumb, back to the little finger. Be aware of the tips of the fingers, draw down into the center. As they open a little bit, you don't even have to do that. You just have to think of something related to having the hands open, and they start to open right away. Because automatically your attention, and you are an energy form. Energy comes out of your eyes if you look at them. Energy comes to a focus that you might have. Same is true in your personality. When you think of a person, bingo, all of a sudden there's a transmission in the direction of that person. It's a big dilemma because we don't think that way, we're not trained that way. But we do have reactions that are not as stellar as one could have them. In other words, good. Good meaning support of the individual who's engaging with your attention. Think about that one just for a bit. So as these hands begin to open, you do that. As your hands open, now you've got to deal with your personality. I don't have to do that anymore because my hands are open. In reality, that's what the personality does. It's kind of an important piece, very highly valued by the individual who has one. In our world, everybody has one. So, if you can take another look at that and realize that when you're using the hands, it could be a prayer. Just have in your mind that you would like to engage with the highest of all states as you can handle it, because it means increased perception of you as well as others. In having that happen, you will see things in others that relate primarily to you, not them. Oh, they may have a little bit of something there, but if you're highly sensitized to you and your background construction as a personality, you will see you in others a lot. And your information and your assessments around that will not be as objective, one could say, as you might believe they are. In other words, you're right, whatever comes up, whatever you think and feel. You perceive and assess with how you have engaged with your background. It's the nature of what we all do. When I say you, I mean it's a plural thing. includes everybody, including myself, includes everybody. You have to be careful of that. And we're not trained to be careful of it. We're trained to use it. Okay, now you might think that I'm getting a little off the hands. Well, the hands are related to the personality as well. So any chakra combinations that engage as a system in a particular way and grow internally, hands, affect other systems that are similar to it. Well, think about that one for a couple of minutes. Everyone in our species has some similarities. They have similar types of bodies. Bigger, smaller, but they're still bipedal and they're still functional. And they tend to act in a way that's similar to other people's version of acting out or acting inwardly. So we all have emotion. We all have a tendency to want to have a good mind. And we all have bodies. We're linked together. All those systems are energy forms or energy systems. So the hands, as they come on more, affect this system of chakras, because all the air is chakras, not a big deal. And in other words, energy can operate through them externally. That's what happens with us. Energy operates into and through us to create an engagement with others. We call them their personalities. We call our activity and behavior our personalities. So this is the nature of how an individual functions, how we all function. So if these things come on differently than previously, you can look at it in two ways. Yours come on and now you're more spiritual than anybody else. Or yours come on and now you're able to engage with others or perceive others where they begin to come on. If you live in a community where they use hands for different purposes, like making a person feel better, we often call a kind of healing, then hands will be on. And if you're trying to do all that yourself, like, and now I'm superior, blah, 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 your personality is coming on as a system. Then your community will be based and biased on how important you are in the scheme of things. No different than anybody else on the planet, even the ones who are not trying to do any healing or helping of others. It's highly personalized. To get the hands to go beyond the personalization, the ownership, the value of a person becomes lesser, but you still are able to function. What the heck does that mean? What you're trying to do is have this system, the middle of the chest, the heart, the next one, the brow, the solar plexus, the root, or the throat, and the root gonad centers, and the right there where they cross over, real strong throat center connection in a major way. And this is really important because as the throat center opens, it brings energy downward to try and help the self-will, the gonad center, the self position and importance, the root center, and soften the intensity of the emotion into a place where you can say, easy, 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 and moderate your emotional intensity, which you have been using as an energy form to idealize your personalizations or to make you feel really good and important in the scheme of things. It's okay to feel good. It's the nature of our particular plane to want to be important so other people can take a look at us and figure, oh, boy, they do that, they do this. But that's still personalization, whatever your beliefs are. And this is where we get hooked and caught up. This little trick of having the hands come on. And the system begins to shift and change, and you start looking and noticing that the hands are on for a purpose that you don't know. And they're on, maybe you do know, maybe you target them and say, if my hands come on more than anybody else, then I will be really terrific. Yeah, I say, sure. That's what our personality does. So when the hands come on, and suddenly you happen to notice phase 2 of the hands. First phase, becoming aware. Phase 2, the hands start to move in a direction to be helpful to a center for a purpose related directly to enabling you to move past the personalization a little bit at a time. They can be helpful. In other words, it's called a movement towards becoming spiritual. Definition unknown, yet surmisable and attested to based on certain definitions you already have in your particular way of engaging with life, or ones that you believe must be true because other people have them. It's an experiential process. It's what it is. The other is a more theoretical process and a self-validating process. So, what did I just say? Opening of the hands will slowly help another system, because they're a system, the two of them together. The system will help another system from the root to the crown to open a little at a time so awareness can occur of how you function, so you can slow it down and watch it in action and make some attempts to soften down the need we have to personalize everything, so that you can get to the point where you go outside your personalization to watch and understand how energy can actually come in and perceive it operating in and through us. This is just, I would call that a tremendous prayer. It's an ache we all have to engage with higher states beyond the personalization. I keep saying that because you can move out of your body and still be personalization, in a very strong personalization. I did this, I'm going to do that, and fine. Because here, we need that to be able to say, well, is this really worthwhile? Because if I do this, and then I become that, oh, boy, then I must be really becoming more able. And my definition of ability is based on cause and effect only. Cause and effect is very tricky. There is cause and effect. And there is internal awareness and movement. But the discrepancy is personalization is less. Recognition and realization is tremendously more. You begin to understand what realization means. It doesn't mean realization that you're really great and wonderful. You are right from the beginning. Always are, because you have this potential. It's more recognition and understanding of the realization that higher states can operate through you for the purpose of helping others to begin to engage with realization. One way to put it. I probably answered the second question, Dominic. I'm sorry about that, but I just went on a bit. I may have energy in my hands, but does opening my hands ensure I am seeking something beyond my current relationship with higher state energy? Well, I think I did answer that in a way. Does it automatically, when you try to open your hands, does it automatically mean that you are seeking something beyond my current relationship with higher states? That's like a double-edged sword. You're walking a very thin line. Yes, it does. Not necessarily. It does if you are honestly sincere. And you can't fake that. Because that higher state knows if you're sincere or not. And we all do our best with that. Do your best with that. And I'm not only talking to Dominic, I'm talking to everybody. Do your best with that. If you try to do your best with that, you will see when you're not. It's not the feeling that you'll get. It's the recognition that you will perceive when you're really not. Because you're holding your personal form in a position of its need to be valued, which is part of what we do here. This is why I keep saying we're fairly young in our actual interaction with higher states. It is oddly and often believed that information will get you into that place. And I 1/18 agree with that. And here's what I mean. If you engage with information that comes from someone who is already in at least some form of realization, that energy from that realization will come in your direction, and it will help you. If you are engaged with something that is related usually to an intellectual point of view, it will come in your direction to help your intellectual perspective, not your relationship with realization. But there may be one sentence in that whole series of books, for example, that rings in you, that touches something in you, that allows you to shift in a nanosecond, not consciously, because in that moment when you shift, it's as if you are anticipating, but something doesn't go in the anticipated level. It goes into a place where it touches you, and a second of realization occurs within you. And that relates to a higher mind versus the emotional mind. Emotional mind is quite clear about the validation that is internalized in relationship to towards validating the importance of what you have read. That one sentence is different. It's a sense of something touched me there, and I know that is part of a clue. That's all. That's a touch related to realization. You will perceive that sometimes. What holds you from perceiving it a lot is our engagement with our own personalizations. We're not quite ready to, just move stuff apart and take in direct realization energy, because we already believe we have certain levels of development or certain levels of protection that is necessitated by maintaining a personality the way it has been before. This is just our natures. It's not a negative thing. Just the nature of how we comfort ourselves in an engagement with a kind of sense of reasonableness in our protecting our stalwarts of how we function in life as a personality. No negation is there at all. We do that with things, information, subject matter. That's how we, strangely enough, we move in that direction so we can let go of that. It's so fascinating. In a moment of realization, you can't remember anything that you're extremely good at. Isn't that weird? You can't remember anything that makes you extra special. The moment that realization, energetic engagement occurs, you are in it, in that energy, and you can't remember anything around it. 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes later, 2 minutes later, whatever, now you're trying to put things together. Now you start remembering how that might fit or might not fit. This is fascinating. Very interesting. And one of the things that we'll have to deal with as we grow, little by little. And that's wonderful. I mean, the growth. Okay. I feel energy in the hands increase when I bring awareness to that area. Automatically. Remember? I said, your eyes are transmitters. Energy is operating through them. They're 2 small chakras. We don't think of them that way. 2 small chakras. Small chakra. We use this quite a bit. 2 little small chakras. The ability to take in and move out is so well trained, this breath out, so well trained in us, we don't even bother with them. We don't bother with the ears. I am now listening with my right ear. It looks like my left ear. But to me, I mean, this kind of thing, we don't do that. This is what our constructed brain does automatically. Until we start slowing things down and doing them on purpose, then we get to know stuff. But, so I'll say it again, I feel energy in my hands increase when I bring awareness to that area, but I feel opening the hands at least once gives me a slight different relationship with the energy. Did I say that? And I feel opening the hands at least once gives me a slight different relationship with the energy. That's true. That's what we've been talking about, Dominic. You're absolutely right. The relationship with the energy is this system as a whole, all the chakras are here, affects this system and all its chakras in the places within those chakras where energy has come on in the hands. Just a little bit. It allows you to perceive a little bit more. Something different in the organization and function of your personality structure or your sensing mechanism. And this is a key. We don't think about those chakras as having every other chakra's potential in them. We don't talk about that very often. Because it's, we're kind of happy just having them all come on, maybe. Or they feel like they all come on. That's a beginning. But the personality reigns in those early openings, and to bring those centers on to a stage where in every chakra, the root, gonad, and solar plexus is firing as a oneness, like a oneness that's really high. Normally that does not happen on these planes very often. But certainly the root center coming on is getting stronger. You start to notice that from time to time. As a person grows, of course, they learn how to quiet their tempo down, their engagement with those centers down, so that they're not noticeable as much. But that means that you're able to engage and watch your personality functioning in its own right. And you're watching it as you engage with life. And you're saying, okay, that could be softer there. That might be helpful if it was. That might be, maybe I can broaden out in this, see things from a different perspective. Because remember, ultimately, you see from zero, only seeing everything from your perspective, you see it from a much broader perspective because it's more universal. But if you talk about more universal in terms of the personality, it just means you have a broader belief system. And that's okay. That's a stage. And then you shift a little beyond the belief system, and suddenly you're saying, oh, that's interesting. I used to believe that exactly. I'm not so sure that's actually perfectly true. And in between some of these states, your personality is yelling and screaming to get back into how it was before, because that's the nature of cycling towards more growth. Cycle a little bit more towards more growth, but you're making this deep dive back into perceiving how you were so you can see how you were. And then understand, it's not only seeing how you were that's important, but seeing, so this is a construction of how I developed based on how I was perceiving things and how they seemed to be in my background. Okay. Now that may go fairly slow because there is a need to protect how you have been developed, because it's how you loved yourself then. And perhaps maybe not, or maybe yes, how you thought others would love you more. This happens in every family background, every local background, all of things that you might be interested in life. They all have some kind of purpose and reasoning, but much too complicated to go down and say, okay, these all you'd never get out of doing this. All with this little that one and that one. No. What you're trying to do is see broader as opposed to tighten with our defenses to say, oh, this is bad and this is good and that's right and this is wrong. That kind of thing. You'll see that when you perceive broader and understand you better and begin slowly to understand others. In older traditions, they believe the opening of the hands became the first catalyst of an engagement that would open up an individual and allow them to understand beyond their current personalizations and their considerable value attached to them. Great. Very, very interesting question. And then let's see if I might have made a note to see if I left anything out. I was just going to say, like, when you're walking or personalizing in life, what you're really doing is turning on your root center. Every movement that you have, very physically, emotionally based. Your will center, the gonad center, and your emotional cultivation of intensity and wielding it, using it for your own purposes. You do this normally, and it comes up so that you consider that you are thinking with your emotional mind, and your version of you is more valued than others. If that makes some sense to you, then maybe you'll see that everyone is doing the same thing. And now it's them versus you and you versus some others and blah, 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 stuff like this. And it's in internal growth. It's not a game. It's not a you versus others. It's hard enough to do something in yourself that might be helpful to you. And in the final analysis, if it is, then higher states can operate in and through you for the benefit of others, as opposed to you thinking it came from you, which is just a framework for belief and being counter to other systems. It's very interesting. Some of those folks that I've met, I'm very fortunate to meet. None of them were competing with each other. They were helping. They run into each other. There's an automatic helping. Because that higher state, that's what it does. Down here, we do it differently. We move towards becoming more important than others, or important so others can know that we're worth something. Really, it's the vulnerability of us thinking we're not worth anything. And that's really not true. And then, competing with each other, just so you can prove something. To who? Usually to yourself. Because the level of vulnerability and fear on these planes is really strong. Fear that we're not worth something. It's not real. So I think that might do it, Dominic, for this one. But closing on a really important note, from at least my perspective, if you're thinking about this and you're on your own sometime, nobody else around, and no phones to call anybody else so that you can reassure them that you're great or reassure them that you're not, somehow that reassures you that you're okay. If you can understand that you are really worthwhile, and what holds you in that particular position of personalization is the level of engagement that we have on these planes right now. It's vital to be okay with you as a growing being. And even, I hate to say this out loud, but I think it's true. No matter what you think of others, in their own way, they are attempting to mollify themselves by their actions, by their engagements, the best they can, because they're afraid that others will not consider them as important as they believe they have to be from their own perspective to be okay. Even that is a level of them comforting themselves for the purpose of getting past a sense of not being worthy. This is really difficult, but nonetheless, it takes hold from time to time and has an effect on everyone else. So here's the thing. If you can grow just a little bit in this lifetime, you will be tremendously helpful to our whole species. And also for those around you. Just do the best you can. Recognize you will sometimes not do well with this. That's part of it. Having the courage to handle that in an honest little place within yourself helps you to understand that you are a human being and you deserve respect no matter who you are. And you deserve to understand that you're worth something, not by other people only, but from your perspective. You're worth being you. There is much that we don't understand in relationship to everyone being slightly different. But perhaps it has to do with helping the species as you can become conscious of you without the defense that you believe you don't have. I wish you well with that. Thank you very much, Dominic. And now we're going to meditate and have a great meditation, and I'll bring you out at the end. Take care now. And please remember questions. Thank you.
रत्नैः कल्पितमासनं हिमजलैः स्नानं च दिव्याम्बरम् नानारत्नविभूषितं मृगमदा मोदाङ्कितं चन्दनम् जातिचम्पकबिल्वपत्ररचितं पुष्पं च धूपं तथा दीपं देवदयानिधे पशुपते हृत्कल्पितं गृह्यताम् सौवर्णेन नवरत्नखण्डरचिते पात्रे घृतं पायसम् भक्ष्यं पञ्चविधं पयोदधियुतं रम्भाफलं पानकम् शाकानामयतं जलं रुचिकरं कर्पूरखण्डोज्ज्वलम् ताम्बूलं मनसा मया विरचितं भक्त्या प्रभो स्वीकुरु छत्रं चामरयोर्युगं व्यजनकं चादर्शकं निर्मलम् वीणाभैरिमृदङ्गकोहलकला गीतं च नृत्यं तथा साष्टाङ्गं प्रणतिः स्तुतिर्बहुविधा एतत्समस्तं मया संकल्पेन समर्पितं तव विभो पूजां ग्रहाण प्रभो आत्मा त्वं गिरिजामते सहचराः प्राणाः शरीरं ग्रहम् पूजा ते विषयोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधिस्थितिः सञ्चारः पदयोः प्रदक्षिणविधि स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो यत् कर्म करोमि तत् अखिलम् शम्भो तवाराधनम् करचरणकृतं वा कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वापराधम् विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतच्छमस्व जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री महादेव शम्भो। तातो न माता न बन्धुर्न दाता न पुत्रो न पुत्री न भृत्यो न भर्ता न जाया न वेद्या न वृत्तिर्ममैव गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी भवाब्धावपारे महादुःखभीरो प्रपात प्रकामी प्रलोभी प्रमत्ता कुसंसारपाश प्रबद्धः सदाहं गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी न जानामि दानं न च ध्यानयोगम् न जानामि तन्त्रं न च स्तोत्रमन्त्रम् न जानामि पूजां न च न्यासयोगम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी न जानामि पुण्यं न जानामि तीर्थम् न जानामि मुक्तिं लयं वा कदाचित् न जानामि भक्तिं व्रतं वापि माता गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी कुकर्मी कुसङ्गी कुबुद्धि कुदास कुलाचारहीन कदाचारलीन कुदृष्टि कुवाक्य प्रवन्द सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी प्रजेशं रमेशं महेशं सुरेशं दिनेशं निशीथेश्वरं वा कदाचित् न जानामि चान्यत् सदाहं शरण्ये गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी विवादे विषादे प्रमादे प्रवासे जले चानले पर्वते शत्रुमध्ये अरण्ये शरण्ये सदा मां प्रपाहि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी अनाथो दरिद्रो जरारोगयुक्तो महाक्षीणदीन सदा जाड्यवक्त्रा विपत्तौ प्रविष्ट प्रणष्ट सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं चेत्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्तपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पः सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम् ब्रह्ममुरारिसुरार्चितलिङ्गम् निर्मलभासितशोभितलिङ्गम् जन्मजदुःखविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवमुनि प्रवरार्चितलिङ्गम् कामदहन करुणाकरलिङ्गम् रावणदर्पविनाशनलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सर्वसुगन्धिसुलेपितलिङ्गम् बुद्धिविवर्धनकारणलिङ्गम् सिद्धसुरासुरवन्दितलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कनकमहामणिभूषितलिङ्गम् फणिपतिवेष्टितशोभितलिङ्गम् दक्षसुयज्ञविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कुङ्कुमचन्दनलेपितलिङ्गम् पङ्कजहारसुशोभितलिङ्गम् सञ्चित पाप विनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवगणार्चितसेवितलिङ्गम् भावैर्भक्तिभिरेव च लिङ्गम् दिनकरकोटिप्रभाकरलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् अष्टदलोपरिवेष्टितलिङ्गम् सर्वसमोद्भवकारणलिङ्गम् अष्टदरिद्रविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सुरगुरुसुरवरपूजितलिङ्गम् सुरवनपुष्पसदार्चितलिङ्गम् परमपदं परमात्मकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम्
Now we'll just begin to do the bouncing and grounding on our own. And have a good evening, everybody.